Hello and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program. I'm Cat Trans Gamer and I'm back over in the career mode. Um, Sorry for the lengthy time in between uploads right now. I had some issues with my video capture card, and now I've hopefully got it fixed. Fingers crossed. But today I'm doing another satellite mission. And the particular satellite mission I'm doing is this one right here. Rokia Incorporated. And the reason I'm doing this one is it's a little bit different than the last satellite mission I did. Last satellite mission put us into normal orbit and everything like that. It was easy to do. But this one has a much larger orbit. As you can tell, it has an apus of 19.6 million meters and a periapus of 7.7 meters. And if you notice the inclination, 112 degrees. It's a fairly offset one, but if I do it, I'm going to get a lot of money off this one. So what we have to put on this one is we've got to have an unmanned probe, has an antenna, and can generate power. Reach a designated orbit around Kerbin, minimum, okay. Has a thermometer and also has a materials bay. So I've already gone and built this craft. But first I wanted to show you the actual orbit. So let's go to the tracking station. Now, the orbit we're talking about is this red one right here. Okay, this is Kerbin, and that's the orbit it wants me to put it in here. Here's our periapus, here's our apus. And when you're looking at these orbits, if you notice how the thick color line kind of orbits around, that's the actual direction of the orbit that you want to achieve. So I've got to get this thing going around Kerbin that way at this inclination and everything. So let's go ahead and get this set up. Leave the facility, and I will show you guys how to do this. Now, what you want to do is you want to build your craft, and I've upgraded my vehicle assembly building, so now I can do 255 parts, which is good because, you know, now I'm starting to get bigger and bigger jobs. So here's the craft I've got. Got a thermometer there. I put 2 satellite panels, but on the side here I've got a 200 rechargeable battery, Z200. I'm using the OKTO probe, and I've got a small inline reaction wheel. And then here's the materials bay. The Science Junior's the materials bay. And then I'm using a lot of these FLT 800 fuel tanks. I've got one there, I've got 2 in the center, and then 2 on each of the 4 boosters here on the asparagus staging. The motors I'm using for here, I've got the LV909, and then all 5 of these motors down here are all using the LV-T45 swivel. But what I've done with the asparagus staging is, you can tell, I've got these 2 outline stacks are feeding into the side, these other 2 side stacks. And then those 2 side stacks are feeding into the center stack. So what's going to happen is I'm going to, on launch, let's see, I'll do it this way. On launch, this motor here and this one back here is going to I'm going to drop off first, because they're going to empty out the fastest. And then these 2 on these sides, on the left and right, those are going to empty out, and I'm going to drop those off, and I'm going to be left with this center one full of fuel ready to go. And it's going to be all 5 motors I'm going to use at the same time on launch. And then, as you can see, I dropped these 2, then those 2, and then the center stack. So it's a fairly simple asparagus staging build. I'll zoom in here a little bit so you guys can see. I've got struts to help support the flexing when the motors start, because you know you've got the motors burning down here, but the connection point's way up here, so you've got all this torque to flex on this pivot point right here. So to prevent that, I added the 4 struts in down here at the bottom. So let's go ahead and launch this. Okay, now that I've got it on the launch pad, I want to go and check where I'm at in the Kerbin orbit. I know it's nighttime. As you can tell, the sun's starting to rise and everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to the Space Center. I want to go back to the Space Center, leaving the rocket on the launch pad. As you can see, it says right here, Untitled Spacecraft. And I'll rename it once I get it into orbit. So we come over here to the tracking station. Again, we come out and we look at this orbit. But what's nice is we can come in here, zoom in, and we can find our craft. Now if you hit circle on it, you focus in on the craft. So you zoom out, you can still see the craft right there at Kerbin. And you see our satellites flying around and stuff. But as you can tell, I've pretty much got it right where I want it to launch. The only thing is I gotta figure out which direction I want to go. And as you can tell, this side's coming down south. Well, I want to actually launch from this side so I can go north. Nope, sorry. This is what I want to do. I want to come down and I want to go south, but I also want to go to the west. So I'm going to go southwest on my launch. And what that's going to do is it's going to put me in an orbit going around in the same direction, and it should put me at either a straight southern or a little bit inclined towards the west off of Kerbin, which will put me in a better orbit to line up with this right here. So and if you're not in this position, all you can sit there and fast forward, and you can fast forward really fast here in the space in the tracking station. You can fast forward really fast. So you go all the way up to 10,000 times, 100,000 times speed, and really get time to fly by. Okay, so we go back to our craft. All you gotta do is come over here to the launch pad, click on it, and hit fly. So there we go. Let's turn on SAS. I'm gonna throttle up, but yeah, I'll go 1 notch over 1/3, 2/3, and see how that goes. So let's go ahead and hit launch. Now remember, I want to try to go, if you look down here on the gimbal, this is north, this is south, this would be east, over that way. Well, I want to go actually southwest. I want to go that way. So southwest is actually over here, because it's northwest, south, east. The 90 is east, the 270 is west. So I want to go around 225. I want to try to follow that line. So let's go ahead and fire up the engine motors and get this thing into space. And as you can tell over here, the fuel tanks are dropping at different speeds. These two here are dropping really fast. Then these two, and then this one. That's signifying the different stages of the asparagus staging. These tanks are going to empty out really fast. And see now, I've dropped those two off. All my tanks look full again. And we're gonna have to speed up the engines a little bit. Speed up these motors a little bit. Let's go to 2 notches under 100. Some motors hitting the ground, the ones I dropped. Once I drop off these last 2 sets, I'm gonna switch over to map view so I can actually look at my orbit a little bit better. There we go. Let's go over to map view. And you see how the orbit's somewhat lining up there? It's not going to take much more to get it into line. But let's see what our altitude's at. Okay, there we go. I want to get that Apis over 72,000 before I kill the engine. So there we go. And let's add a maneuver. Get us into orbit. And now I'll put our Periapis, let's see. Not quite, need a little bit more there. There's our Periapis over 70,000. There we are. So let's go ahead and line up for this burn. We got a 2-minute burn and 40 seconds to the burn. So I'm going to go ahead and start the engines now, the motor now, so I can help use it to get lined up faster. Alright, there we go. And we'll switch back over to staging. Don't add a maneuver. Well, it looks like I had just enough fuel in this thing. Looks like, at least it looks like it's going to be just enough fuel to do this. Let's see here. 2, 1. There we are. Kill the motor. And look at that. 18.6 liquid fuel left. Almost ran out. So we'll go ahead and kill that waypoint. And let's go back to map move. Now I did fall back into the atmosphere. Periapis of 65,000, which I'm not too worried about. But I am going to come over here to the Apis. And I'm going to, that's 530. I'm going to add a maneuver here. Now what I'm going to do is obviously extend that out. Let's try to rotate a little bit more straight. There we go. And let's extend it out a little bit more. I want to get pretty close to that orbit there. That's not going to work. I need to find a point on this orbit that's going to put us pretty close to lining right up. So let's extend that. Yeah, see, that's still, I shouldn't be rotating it. That's where I'm going wrong. Okay. Back to the Apis. Let's just extend it real quick. Ooh, too far. And I'm going to rotate it this way a little bit. Try to intersect these two lines right here. That's what I'm aiming for. Oops. That's got it right there. So that will intersect right there. So I'll be able to add another maneuver there. And that's when I'll work on getting this entire orbit lined up. I don't like that. Try doing it there. See, that almost lines up down here at the descending node. So we'll go with that. Okay. Now what I'll do is I'll go ahead and line up the craft. Now remember, our motor is going to burn out almost as soon as we light it. So we're going to want to do this from staging mode at first. Line up on our maneuver. Now I'm going to switch over to staging mode real quick. And we know the sun's that way. So I'm going to rotate the solar panels over. So that way the solar panels will be pointing towards the sun when the sun comes up. Alright. Let's fast forward to our maneuver. Warp to next maneuver. Okay, switch over to staging. See there, our solar panels are getting 98% sunlight. So that's going to keep our batteries completely full. Alright, I'm going to fast forward here a few seconds. I want to get down to about 15 seconds. That's when I'm going to ignite. So full throttle. It's going to burn out. There we go. Now let's switch back over to map mode so we can actually watch our orbit extend. Bring our gimbal back up because we're almost done. Alright, so now what I want to do is zoom out right like that. And let's go over here to the periapus. And we'll add the maneuver here. Now this one is going to be a lot of work because we've got to finish the rotation. Actually, no. I'm at the wrong one. I want to do this at the descending node, that's right. Add a maneuver. So we're going to extend this orbit like this. Then we're going to wrap it around. Bring our orbit back in because definitely wrapped it too far. Oh, wrong way. And all you're trying to do right now is line up the orbit. You've got all the time in the world. And it's just back and forth until you get the orbit pretty much lined up, which is right about there. Now if you notice, I'm off. So we'll rotate this orbit. Still going to be off a little bit, but we're going to be a lot closer to what we wanted. And see, we can finish rotating it once we get around to this node here. Now that we've got it all lined up, almost identical. So we'll go with that. So again, find our maneuver node. Make sure we're getting power. We're still pointing at the sun. 91%, but we can easily fix that. A little bit of rotation. Let's see what we're at now. 93, that's the best we're going to do because of how we're pointed. Alright, so now we're going to fast forward to our next maneuver. You can do that by hitting anywhere on the dotted line. Okay, we've got a 45-second burn, it says. So we'll fast forward down to about negative 20 seconds till. And then I'll slow down. And we'll go ahead and burn. Start up the motor and accomplish this burn here. Now, this is one nice thing about using the bigger nodes, or bigger orbits, is you notice I don't have to use up as much fuel and stuff like that. So here we go, wrapping it around. A little bit longer. 2, 1. Kill the motors. And we'll extend it a little bit longer. There. Now you see I've got, if I look straight in on the orbit, we got right there. So what I do is I add a maneuver node right there. And that's just as a reference. Now we come back over here and look straight on it. We got a maneuver there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and probably pick that one. So I'll come in and delete this one. And we'll use this one right here to rotate on the axis. Just like that. And you see we want to bring our periapus in a little bit. So we'll shrink the orbit down a little bit, and then we'll rotate it. Nope, the other way. Too far. And that should put us right where we want it. And if you notice, now we barely have to do any maneuvering. The burn time on this is not even registering. 54 meters per second. So get to our maneuver node. And we'll fast forward to the warp to next maneuver. Oh wow. I forgot the maneuver node was on the next cycle around. Oops. I forgot to delete it and then reset it. So there we go. And we'll fast forward this all the way up to last 10 seconds and I'll slow it back down. Alright. Burn. And let's see if we got it. Yep, there you go. Disappeared. We now have our satellite. Now let's go ahead and rename this. No, not add a maneuver. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here. Go ahead and delete that. And if you click on the actual command pod, you got a choice right here, rename vessel. And this is how you can come in and actually change icons, turn it into a rover or a base or a space station, something like that. But we're going to go ahead and call this Weather 1. Oops. Because this is our first weather satellite. Alright. And let's go ahead and see if we can collect some science off of this. Only 1.3 for transmitting, but we'll transmit it. Yeah, don't forget to get your satellite orientated for the sun. Easiest way to do this is come in here on the solar panel, click circle, and then kind of move it around till you get sun exposure 1. And let's get our temperature reading. Log temperature, and we're going to get nothing for transmitting that. But we'll go ahead and transmit. And just for looks, I'm going to go ahead and extend that permanently. So there we go. Head back to the Space Center. Well, that's it for this episode. If you liked it, thumbs up. If you or enjoyed it. If you want to see more of this, please subscribe. I am going to try to get back on a normal uploading schedule of 1 video per day. And, you know, drop a comment. Let me know what you think. And until next time, bye!